Good evening, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're from. Welcome to this webinar celebrating the launch of Allegory, a tapestry of Guru Nanak's travels. My name is Hasveen. I am the lead of the Sydney team here at the Young Sikh Professionals Network, otherwise known as YSPN. Before going any further, I would just like to begin with acknowledging the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we meet today. I am joining you from the land of the Bidjigal clan of the Darug region. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and recognise that sovereignty has never been ceded. So in this webinar today, YSPN and Sikh Youth Australia are teaming up with the Allegory production team to bring you an exclusive conversation about the production of the Allegory docuseries. I'm sure you all know what the Allegory docuseries is, but for those who don't, it is a 24-episode series that canvasses the life and travels of Guru Nanak across a span of countries, including India, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Tibet, Afghanistan, and Iraq. The first 2 episodes are out now and are available on thegurunanak.com. With that said, I would like to now introduce our panelists, the creators of Allegory, bearing in mind there's a much bigger team behind the production, but we're lucky enough to have the time of our 5 panelists here today. So firstly, Amardeep Singh. Amardeep is based in Singapore and is the co-director and executive producer of Allegory. Amardeep has authored 2 books, Lost Heritage, The Sikh Legacy in Pakistan, and The Quest Continues, Lost Heritage, The Sikh Legacy in Pakistan. And for those who are here in Australia, you might recognise Amardeep from launching these books at the Sikh Youth Australia Summer Camps. We also have Vininder Kaur. Vininder is also based in Singapore and is the co-director, scriptwriter and music coordinator of Allegory. Vininder is also the editor of those Lost Heritage books and is also Amardeep's wife. Salman Alam Khan is based in Pakistan and is the cinematographer for Allegory in 7 out of the 9 countries. Salman is a renowned photographer and filmmaker in Pakistan. We also have Deepak Verma joining us from India, and Deepak is an experienced cinematographer who shot the footage for Allegory in India and Bangladesh. And last but not least, we have Gamran Fazal, who is from Pakistan but is currently based in Singapore, and Gamran is the video editor for Allegory. Gamran has worked for renowned news channels, documentary production houses, and social media agencies across Pakistan. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We're now just going to show a short trailer for the next episode, so episode 3, which has not been released yet, but this will just be an exclusive preview for those attendees on this webinar, and will give you a bit of a flavour for what we will be talking about.
Ruhani Ravangi, spiritual departure, presents the onset of the keen beholder's first odyssey to observe, assimilate, and disseminate Tawheed, oneness.
Guru Nanak Sahib ਇੱਥੇ ਤਸ਼ਰੀਫ ਲਿਆਏ ਸਾਂਝੀ ਵਲਤਾ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰੀ ਲੱਗਦੀ ਹੈ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ, ਹਲਾਲ ਕਮਾਓ, ਵੰਡ ਕੇ ਖਾਓ।
ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ 2 ਹੱਥ, ਸੱਚ ਨੂੰ ਪਕੜ ਤੇ ਕੂੜੇ ਨੂੰ ਛੱਡ।
Guru Nanak intermingles with mystics at the seat of Shakkarganj.
So as you can see from that clip itself, this docuseries really beautifully illustrates the travels and the spirit of Guru Nanak in a way that we've never seen before. And for me, just after watching a couple of episodes, I can see how this production really brings to life many of the Janam Sakhis that we've heard and listened to growing up. And I think that the perspective of exploring the journey in the modern day really shows the legacy that has been impressed upon many communities in the region, whether that be, the villages of India or the remote areas of Afghanistan or communities in the mountains of Tibet. And it's truly a phenomenal series. And I think what can speak to that is the resources that were poured into the production. So the production took 3 years, around of a team of around 30 people, travels to 9 countries, many generous funders, and we are very excited to hear a bit more about the process of putting together the production in this session. So with that said, this session will be about a 50-minute Q&A where I'll facilitate some question and answer, and then towards the end we'll have a live Q&A where you guys can ask your questions and the panelists will answer those. So please do use the chat function. It should be enabled for you to answer, for you to leave your questions there, and we will address them towards the end in that Q&A session. The session will be recorded, and so if you do want to watch it at a later time, you can do that. And lastly, just as I mentioned, some of our panelists are joining in from India and Pakistan. So if at any time they do respond in Hindi or Urdu, Amardeep will be translating that for the audience. So let's dive into some of the questions. As I mentioned, we want to hear about the motivations to create the docuseries, the process of filming, and also some of the highlights. So I think a sensible place to start is, what is the Allegory docuseries? Vininder, I might get you to talk to that.
Yeah, hi Arvind. Thanks for getting us over and hearing us out. And I would start by saying we are talking with words, and words are the most, the basic building blocks for communication. And Guru Nanak used the power of words to share his experiential wisdom. So his thoughts, if you see, are projected in his verses. He's not written anything about himself, but he's just given us a repository of verses in which you can see he's given anecdotes on ritualistic practices, reflections on various belief systems. There are diverse languages, vernaculars, and musicology of different regions. So I would say whenever I'm going to talk as us, because we are in this together. So in our understanding, he included all these to provoke us to see beyond the norms, to think critically, to reflect on our circumstances, our situations, and to enjoy the beauty of unity in diversity. In certain ways, I would say he was somewhere motivating us to think out of the box, right? So while we were doing our readings about Guru Nanak's life events, so we kept his spiritual words as the touchstone. So in our personal understanding, we got motivated to think critically, fearlessly unlearn, and humbly relearn a lot. So keeping the spirit of Guru Nanak, we decided to keep a name which evoked a similar curiosity amongst the viewers, for them to ponder and think and reflect, what is this docuseries about? So the word allegory came to our mind, and allegory, as per the dictionary, means revelation of a hidden meaning. Hidden meaning, and to comprehend Guru Nanak and his philosophy, to understand his the essence of his spiritual poetry, which is embedded with metaphors, with a lot of philosophical dialogues with multi-faith people, and a lot of history. So we decided to keep the name as Allegory. And this is a humble attempt of both of us, as we can say, to reveal the allegory of Guru Nanak's philosophy, and we named it as Allegory, a Tapestry of Guru Nanak's Travels. So
yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, Vininder. And just on that point, Amardeep, you were the executive producer. So could you tell us a little bit about the motivation behind the production, and as a follow-up to that, how did you and the team sort of set out to plan the docuseries? What resources did you consult, and what was the timeline of putting this all together?
So yeah, so before I start give an answer to that question, let me just go back in time to the year 2010, 2011, when I used to come to Australia when I was working with American Express. And I remember it was Sikh Youth of Australia, the SYA and Satpan Virji, who actually used to get me into the camps to talk to the youth, to inspire them more from a corporate training perspective and bringing in the spiritual elements in those talks. So I'm always thankful for those opportunities to interact with the youth in way back 10, 11 years back, which SYA used to provide me. Also, I'm very thankful that when I decided to leave the corporate career, 25 years having served into it, in 2014, and then I did this first book, Lost Heritage, A Sikh Legacy in Pakistan. It was in January 2016, the first person to actually hold my hand. Of course, behind the scenes, a lot of people held my hand to get the product out. But without a book going out of the godown, there's nothing that you can do. So I thank SYA and Satwan Virji that when they saw the product was out, they were the ones who held my hands first. And the first release event that we had in Australia, it was like a blessing. I can never kind of forget it, because thereafter this has been a trajectory. I mean, I've never stopped for 7 years, and we've just been running and running and running. So thank you very much. And again, thank you for giving this opportunity. So you asked a question, where does the inspiration come from? Well, go back when I used to be with the youth in the camps in 2010, 2011. There was an Amardeep who was not talking just corporate jargon. There was an Amardeep who was bringing in spirituality, who was bringing in various strands of what were my personal thoughts intertwined with the corporate structures and giving as a motivation to the youth, right? Now, would that happen? They don't teach us spirituality in the corporate world. Now, where did that spirituality come in from? Or where did those philosophical insights come in from? It's a journey that I've been doing for 30 years, right? Now, way back when I was in college, I was reading history, I was doing spiritual, philosophical studies, I was doing many other things. What I'm trying to say is that if for a project like this, if you think you're going to do it, there are two ways to do it. You do it commercially, then you've got an entire planning to happen, and then it'll probably take what BBC or a Nat Geo would do on a project like this across 9 countries. It'll probably cost you $25 to $30 million to do it, and it's going to take you about 8 to 9 years to do it, right? Either you go down that path, and then there's a commercial objective out of it, or you follow the heart, the way it has evolved over the period of time. And so these various layers of understanding in terms of philosophy, art, photography, story writing, research, reading the scriptures, all that was kind of coming in when I was in the corporate world. And then when I left it, first started my journey with the research on the field in Pakistan with the Lost Heritage books. That became a second book, which came out, The Quest Continues, Lost Heritage, Sikh Legacy in Pakistan. I spent 4 years doing that in 2 books, and it was moving at a very rapid pace. Why was it moving at a rapid pace? As I say, if your skills are prepared, and this is something for the youth, if your skills, if you've developed your passions, if you've created your passions, not followed them, if you created them and you've really nurtured them, then what you'll find is the motivations come right behind you. So what I'm trying to say is, after the books, when I did 2 documentaries where Salman actually filmed for us, Peering Soul and Peering Warrior, it happened by chance. Salman and I came together just by chance, and we created a product which evoked a lot of emotions in the community. And after that, I just kind of thought that the next thought which came into my mind, it was just motivation that came in, that shouldn't Guru Nanak's docuseries be documented as a next challenge? Because the core skill set that I've developed over a period of time after my corporate world is going into the areas where access is hard, where the legacy footprints have been lost. That's the skill set that I'm focusing on. And if you take that skill set and if you lay out Guru Nanak's journeys, then what comes out evidently is that 70% of the landmass where his story had occurred is not accessible today. We are creating new stories about him as we, as a men of faith, are traveling around the world or going to different places within India. We're creating more places of worship and creating stories around it. But the stories in 70% of the geographical mass is all lost. Other than in Pakistan, Nankana Sahib, Panja Sahib, Kartarpur Sahib, there's a huge multi-faith element. There's a huge multi-faith element in the Islamic world, a huge multi-faith element in the Tibetan region and across India. Why shouldn't we document this? We have documented, National Geographic has done a docuseries, or BBC has done a documentary on Alexander the Great. And I say, what was his greatness? Sorry, tell me. He went around killing people. He went around expanding his territories. You call that as great? The whole world calls him great. Right? You've done a docuseries on Columbus. You've done a docuseries on Marco Polo. They all had their personal objectives. And here's a person who's traveled for oneness of mankind, which is the need of the hour. And therefore, the motivation came in and we started. So you asked me, the next question was the resources. When you start on a gut feel and you're not doing it commercially, it's a stealth mission. My books were a stealth mission. I never went to do a book. I did not know that this documentary could be done. In 2018, when we were sitting at my dining table and thinking about it, I was mapping out the sites. I never knew that in the year 2011, we'll be delivering it. These are blind tunnels. You just get inside them. It's a stealth mission, like they're using the army term. You just get in and you just do it. And you seek the blessings of the divine, saying that, asking that, help us enable it. There's a sixth sense that's telling you that you are in a phase of your life when you think something, it does happen. Will this happen? I don't know. But if we don't try, we don't know. And that's how it happens. So resources planning, the biggest thing was funding. Narrative is one thing. We talk about the narrative is a big issue in this. Where do you start from, right? And the narrative piece, which was over the years, over 30 years, had already been layered. But the next one was resources, the funding. And in some ways, the passions that had resulted in the books had created a creditworthiness in the eyes of the people that they thought that this guy is crazy enough. If he does attempt this, he might come out successful. But in deep down, I did tell people who did support me, if I don't come back, just think your investment was tried. It was a failure. But if we come back, we'll create something. That's how it happened. Resources, I mean, all the teams out here have just been referred, and we've had a most beautiful team. I tell you, we've enjoyed working with this team. Everyone's a gem, and we pray that everyone has a trajectory of a career from here, whether it's the cinematographer or the editor or the singers. We all wish the best for them, that this Guru Nanak's docuseries becomes a platform for them to have a new career and a zooming career from here, because each one is a gem out here. We've been actually stitched together by a divine energy to become a very cohesive team, and that's why we feel one.
Yeah, that's yeah, I think from your response, you can tell it's very much a labor of love, not just from you, but from everyone that has been involved. And so you mentioned that I guess your mission is to go to these places that a bit more difficult to access. So how did you go about sort of discovering the stories in those areas? Did you sort of contact people in those areas, or how did you sort of piece together the story and access those areas that have not been accessed before?
So you have to have a compass laid out, in the sense you have to have a map laid out in front of you with the various multi-faith sites where Guru Nanak's narrative tells us that he's been. The interesting thing, as Vininder said, was that Guru Nanak has only given us spiritual insights. He's not written anything about his life. He's not written any autobiography, right? So where do you start from? All that you're starting from is from these sources which were written 65 years after his life and thereafter. And in fact, in WhatsApp University and Facebook Universities, Guru Nanak is continuing to travel further and further. And in YouTube, there's a video lying that Guru Nanak in America. And so Guru Nanak has not stopped traveling. In fact, he's a juggernaut who doesn't stop, right? He continues to travel. The fact is, where do we start a narrative? So when we start a narrative, you've got to go back and look at the entire set of the oldest traditions that have been written down. Now, a lot of people in our community will say, Janam Sakhis, you don't follow them. It's all myth and mythology. Well, if you've not understood it, don't throw the baby and the bathtub away. This docuseries is guided by, is inspired by the historical texts written by the community members, but it's really inspired by the words of wisdom of Guru Nanak. Gurbani, his writings are the anchor. If anyone's seen 1 or 2 episodes, you'll understand how it's all intertwined with the message of Guru Nanak. That's the fulcrum. So that aspect you have to understand. Where did it come from? Well, these Janam Sakhi texts, you can throw the baby in the bathtub, but if you want to really focus down, that's where these embedded messages are. What did he say at Multan? What did he say in Baghdad? These are his messages. You will throw the messages away if you throw the baby in the bathtub. Have the critical capability to analyze the text, because writers and authors are human beings. They make mistakes. I can tell you, I've written Lost Heritage, the Sikh Legacy in Pakistan. I have evolved over 7 years. I can tell you, I know the places I've made a mistake, but that's been documented, right? It's a part of history now. So if people wrote after his life, 65 years to 180 years after his life, that is the set of repository, the earliest Janamsakhi traditions that we've taken to consolidate and take out the sites that he's visited. And if you divide that geographical landmass, it becomes 9 countries, which are basically Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Tibet, which is now part of China, India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. And inside that, then you go a further step down and you find there are over 150 odd multi-faith sites. Now, Guru Nanak's narrative is not about Gurdwaras. Gurdwaras are memorials out of respect that we have made as a community, as followers and adherents of Guru Nanak, but that's not where you can start the story. The problem today is that within our community, most of the times you'll go to a place, you'll go to a Gurdwara, and your narrative will just stop there based on what the priest there tells you. But the fact is, you've got to go to the places that the old text is telling you what was he engaging with, which elements were he engaging with. You've got to start from there, and then in the narrative come down to what the community has built as memorials, because that also is an equitable representation inside this. But if you look at where the narrative starts from, there are over 150 odd multi-faith sites. And that's what we wrote down in a spreadsheet. We have to map out in 9 countries, and there are over 160 odd verses. We have to bridge that inside and make this narrative.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And just that leads on to a question for Salman. You traveled to a majority of the countries. So what was special about this project that made you want to join the team? And what did you learn on your journey, I guess, in a spiritual sense and also on a professional level? Have we lost Salman?
Yeah,
Hello,
Salman.
sorry, I was disconnected. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting me to this webinar and giving me chance to share my thoughts and experiences about this project. So, first of all, I would like to say that I would like to thank Amardeep Singh that he gave me chance for this important project, a project that is bigger than life actually for me. And I already knew Amardeep Singh. I got a chance to work with him in Pakistan when he was traveling in Pakistan, documenting the Sikh heritage for his second book. So I traveled with him for almost for a month, and we shared very good time together. So I already knew him, and then through him I got connected to Sikh Lens, who are also the producer of this doc series. So so I already knew the team, and when in 2019, when Amardeep asked me, actually in 2018, sorry, when he asked me about this project, actually, so we were discussing it, but uh, when he asked me that I want you to go with us and shoot in all those countries, uh, I was like, I was actually very surprised, and that was really unbelievable for me, because I never thought at that time, I never thought about doing such a project and going to different countries, filming in that way. So I was definitely very surprised, but I mean, at the same time, I was afraid as well, going to Iraq and Afghanistan. But like, as the narrative was being developed in the initial stages, I got to know the importance of this project, that will be following the footsteps of Guru Nanak in all those countries. Maybe we never get, maybe again we don't get chance to go there. So when I saw, when I got to know about the narrative and about this project and about the whole process, I was like I felt very lucky that I'll be going to do this with the team. But at the same time, to be honest, because that it was such a big project that I wasn't sure that are we gonna make it or not, because a lot of things were in the gray areas in terms of logistics and permissions as well, because it's not easy to go to some of the countries because of the conflicts and permissions and other reasons. So I mean, there are a lot of special things about this project. So the only thing that I was hesitant was like me, that am I capable of doing it or not? So, but he had faith in me, and then he gave me chance to go with him and film in different countries and going to different cultures and religions, and not just going there but also filming different people and exploring the narrative as well, because it was a a journey within as well. We were also, we were not just working, um, it was a learning for ourselves as well. So collectively, I'll say that it's a very special project, and I don't know that either I'll get chance to do such a project again in my life or not. So definitely, I couldn't stop myself to joining the team.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I think it's safe to say seems like a very transformative experience for everyone in the team, and
Indeed.
definitely can see it's a passion project in the end result of the production. And Deepak, I might pass the question on to you as well. What was special about this project that made you join the team, and what did you learn spiritually, I guess, and professionally?
ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ। ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਮੈਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਥੈਂਕਸ ਕਰਨਾ ਆਪਣੀ ਗ੍ਰੈਂਡ ਮਦਰ ਨੂੰ, ਵਿਦਿਆ ਕੌਰ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਜੀ ਨਾਲ ਇੰਟਰੋਡਿਊਸ ਕਰਵਾਇਆ। ਔਰ ਐਜ਼ ਏ ਚਾਈਲਡ ਮੈਂ ਬਸ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਮੰਨਦੇ ਆ ਉਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੀ ਮੈਂ ਚੱਲਦਾ ਰਿਹਾ। ਤੇ 2019 'ਚ ਇੱਕ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਚੇਂਜਿਸ ਆਏ, ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਅਮਰਦੀਪ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਤੇ ਨਿੱਕੀ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਐਡਾ ਵੱਡਾ ਚਾਂਸ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਔਰ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਮੰਨਣ 'ਚ ਔਰ ਜੁੜਨ 'ਚ ਬੜਾ ਫਰਕ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਮੰਨਦਾ ਸੀ, ਲੇਕਿਨ 2019 ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜਨ ਦਾ ਮੌਕਾ ਮਿਲਿਆ। ਔਰ
Deep, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਮਿੰਟ ਜਰਾ ਰੁਕ ਜਾਓ, ਮੈਂ ਥੋੜਾ ਟ੍ਰਾਂਸਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਵੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਰਹਾਂਗਾ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ, right?
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਹਾਂਜੀ।
So Deep has chosen to speak in his mother tongue Punjabi, and we are very happy about that. Thank you, Deep. I'm just going to translate as he keeps moving on, so that the ones who are not very well versed with Punjabi can also keep understanding. I'll keep it very short. So Deep first wants to thank his grandmother, Vidya Kaurji, who introduced him and with the stories of Guru Nanak and his philosophy. Thanks her for before talking about this project, and he's thanking us also. But at the same time, what he says is, now what he's trying to say is that there is a difference between knowing and getting attached, and being attached and going into the depths of something, and that's where he's starting. So Deep, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੋਲਦੇ ਜਾਓ, ਫਿਰ ਥੋੜਾ ਰੁਕਦੇ ਜਾਣਾ, ਮੈਂ ਟ੍ਰਾਂਸਲੇਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਜਾਊਂਗਾ।
ਔਰ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਇਹ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਮੇਰੀ ਲਾਈਫ ਦਾ, ਮੇਰੇ 20 ਇਅਰਸ ਕੈਰੀਅਰ ਦਾ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਸੀ। ਔਰ ਮੈਂ ਜੋ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ, ਉਹ ਟੈਕਨੀਕਲੀ ਤੇ ਚਲੋ ਮੈਂ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਵੀ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਉਹ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਕੀਤਾ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਉਹ ਬਾਹਰੋਂ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਸੀ। ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਸਿੱਖਣਾ ਸਿਖਾਇਆ ਕਿ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ ਫਿਲਾਸਫੀ ਬਾਰੇ।
So what he's saying is that this project, what he's really learned is technical skills he already had, and he says that this was definitely his biggest project of his lifetime. And I'm sure Deep has handled much bigger projects, but he's being humble out here out of respect to Guru Nanak. But he's also saying is that he has learned, this project has taught him more internally. Okay,
ਔਰ ਹਾਂ ਦੂਸਰੀ ਗੱਲ ਇਹ ਕਿ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ ਫਿਲਾਸਫੀ ਨੂੰ ਅਗਰ ਮੈਂ ਹੁਣ ਥੋੜਾ ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਸਮਝ ਰਿਹਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਚੱਲਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਕ ਮੇਰੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇੱਕ ਛਟਪਟਾਹਟ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਇਆ ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਇਆ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਮੇਰੇ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਹੀ ਨਿਕਲ ਗਈ ਔਰ ਮੈਂ ਹੁਣ ਇਹ ਸੋਚਦਾ ਵਾਂ ਕਿ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮਦਦ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਕੋਈ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹਦਾ ਜਾਤ ਪਾਤ ਉਹਦੀ ਧਰਮ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਕਦੀ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਇਹ ਸੋਚਿਆ ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਚੱਲਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਅੱਜ ਵੀ ਦੇਖੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ 20 ਰੁਪੀਸ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਲੰਗਰ ਸੀਗਾ ਉਹ ਅੱਜ ਪੂਰੇ ਵਰਲਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਮਤਲਬ ਬੜੇ ਖੁਸ਼ਕਿਸਮਤ ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿ ਆਪਣੀ ਇਸ ਲਾਈਫ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਵਰਗੇ ਸ਼ਖਸੀਅਤ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਕੁਝ ਸਿਖਾਇਆ ਮਤਲਬ ਹੁਣ ਸਿੱਖ ਵੀ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਮੇਰਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਮੇਰੇ ਕੋਲ ਤੇ ਵਰਡਸ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਹੋਰ ਕੀ ਕਵਾਂ ਬਟ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਵਧੀਆ ਰਿਹਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਔਰ ਮੈਂ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਾਂਗਾ ਕਿ ਉਹਦੇ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਪੂਰਾ ਅਮਲ ਕਰਾਂ ਔਰ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਨਸੀਹਤਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਫਿਲਾਸਫੀ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ 1% ਵੀ ਅਗਰ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਇਸ ਬਾਕੀ ਬਚੇ ਲਾਈਫ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਤਾਰ ਲਵਾਂ ਤੇ ਮੇਰਾ ਜੀਵਨ ਸਫਲ ਹੋ ਜਾਏਗਾ
So what Deep is saying is that his own internal challenges, his own internal quests and his polarities that he was struggling with internally, a lot of them have got satiated and have got actually balanced out as a part of this project. And he's very thankful for being a part of this project. For him, he says it's a big internal learning experience. And he also acknowledges the fact, he recalls the fact that Guru Nanak never discriminated against anyone because of the class, gender, creed, and all he did was travel for seeking and imparting wisdom, and he feels fortunate to have been associated in these travels.
ਔਰ ਇੱਕ ਗੱਲ ਹੋਰ ਕਵਾਂਗਾ ਕਿ ਲਾਈਫ 'ਚੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਨਾ ਕੰਟੀਨੈਂਟਲ ਔਰ ਲੰਗਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੁਣ ਕੋਈ ਫਰਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹਿ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਉੱਪਰ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਨੀਚੇ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਬਾਕੀ ਅਮਰਦੀਪ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਤੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਇੰਨੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਪੋਸਟ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਫਿਰ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਰਨੀ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਔਰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੋੜਿਆ ਤੇ ਅਨਬਲੀਵੇਬਲ ਮਤਲਬ ਮੈਂ ਤੇ ਕਦੀ ਖਾਬ 'ਚ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਸੋਚ ਸਕਦਾ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਆਏਗਾ ਔਰ ਇੰਨੀ ਲਾਈਫ ਚੇਂਜ ਹੋ ਜਾਏਗੀ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਬਹੁਤ ਸ਼ੁਕਰੀਆ ਅਮਰਦੀਪ ਜੀ
So I'll not really translate that. I think he's just thanking everyone. Let's move on.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Deep.
Thank you.
So we might move to the process of traveling and filming and editing and all that. So Vininder, a question for you. I guess as the only female in the traveling team, could you sort of talk about your experience of, canvassing the life of Guru Nanak, who was such a fierce advocate for equality, while visiting countries like Afghanistan and Saudi, where women are deprived of many of the fundamental rights and freedoms that Guru Nanak advocated for. Could you sort of talk to that and did that sort of sentiment ever weigh on you when you were traveling to those countries?
Yeah, thanks for asking this. This is so close to my heart and I keep harping about this with everybody. Yeah, I would start by saying, I would thank my parents for raising me absolutely as equal. We are two sisters, so I never felt that I was any less being a woman or a gender which can be discriminated. And so that spirit has always been there, that we are all equal and nobody is less or nobody is, you can have biological differences, but in terms of opportunities or your thinking or your desires can't be any different. So, again, when we were embarking on this journey, the first thing that resonated with me for myself to think that I will be embarking on these countries like Afghanistan, Iran, and probably Saudi Arabia, which we were not able to go. Iraq and all these countries, and there is a certain conditioning and bias which the media has actually conditioned us with. So, but we started with Sri Lanka, but I'll tell you one thing, every place that we went, every woman there has actually motivated me to grow internally. Believe me, you know, in their own restricted lives or open lives, they have been motivating me to become a better woman myself. So I will start probably with Sri Lanka. So we meet this beautiful young girl called Thilini, who's there in the documentary as well. You know what? She went to India to learn classical music, and she came back getting married to a guy. She's I think a Christian, and she married a Hindu. Sinhalese. And she married a Hindu boy who they were studying together, and that boy left his country to be with her in Sri Lanka. So for me, that was empowerment. I learned that it is in our heads that we create all these biases and that women are less or more or whatever. But if men are with us, we can reach the heights, right? Then I will talk about each country. Then we went to Iran, and Salman was with us. So in Iran, as a woman, I had to cover my head, and Salman would laugh because the first thing I would grab was my scarf and cover myself. And then during the course, we met a lady, I will not take her name, and she's a professor teaching Hindi in Afghanistan. So she was in India for a few years, and her husband is from India, and she is in Iran. She practices her religion the way she wants to, and her husband practices his religion the way he wants to. So this was another learning to see how we can be beyond a lot of things. And we were taught by the media that Iran is difficult, but believe me, Iran was beautiful. People are nice. There was no anywhere that I felt that I was discriminated. Yes, there's social, I would say, cultural norms that they have created, but other than that, there was nothing that I could see that women were discriminated in any ways. Then going down to Iraq, we had our, again, there was women empowerment there. We had a woman who was actually our translator. She was translating from, giving us translations in English. So all these, I would say that women have empowered me in a lot of ways. Afghanistan, again, was not easy as a woman being there. And we had to, say, travel long hours because we had made Kabul as a base. And from Kabul, we would travel, say, about 300 kilometers nearly every day and come back to Kabul. And so I had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go take a shower, get ready. And from 4 o'clock, we start traveling until we came back. I used to not drink any water, no fluids, because I had no way to go and ease myself anywhere as a woman, because there were no places there for women, convenience of the women there. And our driver, he's become a son. He was excited to see a woman who can sit in front and be with the driver and be on the road. He had never seen any other woman doing that. And he asked me to drive the vehicle for him. And that was his point of excitement there.
He couldn't imagine that a woman could drive a vehicle. So when she was on the highway, he stopped the car and he offered her the car, and then she drove in Afghanistan. So that was her. So there are many stories I can talk about, but I can say it has been a lovely growth for me as well.
Yeah, and it's nice and sort of refreshing to hear a lot of the conceptions that we have of women in those countries. You know, your experience was very different to what we normally hear about that. So that's nice. But again, I mean, I'm sure, you know, as you said, the social stereotypes are still very much there, but it's nice that your experience was really, really nice and, you know, sort of no discrimination, no issues. So Kamran, coming to you, you sort of had the joy of distilling all this down into 24 episodes. So could you talk to us a little bit about the process of editing all these hundreds of hours of footage into sort of neatly packaging them up into 24 episodes? Could you tell us a little bit about that editing process?
Hello everyone, Salam and Sat Sri Akal to all, and I am thankful to join this webinar, and I'm thankful also Amardeep Paji and also Salman, because I am connected through Salman to Amardeep Singh in 2020. So I am actually working in Pakistan from last 6 years. I have a lot of experience in different making documentary series and also different projects. So when I'm here, so I am actually going to background a little bit. So then we are going to project editing process. So I have a little bit no knowledge about Guru Nanak, but not much about their philosophy and other things. So when I came here, so meet with Amardeep Singh, and they described me about the project and the details, how we go, and they have actually prepared their work, they done their work. So how the flow is going, and what is the process, and what is the like continuity of the stories also. So when we are going to edit a process, there are a lot of footage, as 100,000 of like the GBs of data. But I have a lot of experience past in my past projects, some travel films and the other. So when we started, this is like huge project. So different 9 countries data, and to remember these data also for the editing process, it is like actually this is a main thing, how to remember these things, if it is the process and how it start. Actually, I know about the little bit Nankana Sahib place at the Gurdwara here, but no else, not know any Gurdwaras in like everywhere. So the process when we started, it's editing. So they gave me like the script and the process they have built up in their storyboard like this. So it is actually a lot of learning for me also, because they have like the philosophy of Guru Nanak is not actually, it's a spiritual angles of element like the filming. It's not a regular documentary thing. So it's a spiritual element also. We have to care about the what we are putting the shots in it. So if we are making first episode, we have I think to spend 35 days in a one episode to doing this. Like actually, the main process is I'm actually used to the software and how the editing process is, but the narrative and the process of the visuals and the stories, how to create it, it's actually why, because the narrative is not normal again. It's like the spiritual message, and we have care about the what we are putting in the visual stories, not hurting to anyone like their faith. Actually it's coming with the different faiths and the culture, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism also, and the Islam also, you know. So when actually one challenges me for in whole process is the like the shabads. I know Punjabi very well, but the shabads like they are coming in Gurmukhi. So the meanings of the like the shabads, it's challenging for me. So how we put the visual of these according to the coming words.
Yeah.
So Amardeep Paji also gave me these, like they are sitting with me every time, and we are finding the footage, like we have thousands of GBs data, then putting one footage from there, one footage from there. Like this is a challenging also. And your second point is about second question. So I have like I'm attached to Sufism also in my like past. I'm actually attached to Sufism, philosophy of Sufism. But I know actually when we start this project, and I have learned about the many things in this project about the Guru Nanak philosophy, what is actually his thoughts, what is his philosophy is. So there are many things I learned through this project. Like actually in Islam, if we are going, I am a Muslim, so in Islam we have know about the things, what is the right, wrong, the system in the culture, and the also in religion. So in this Sikhism, like there are many, and if we are going to the Guru Nanak philosophy, so there are many similar things like I saw in these. They are shabas, like they are coming out, their meanings, and they are proceeding their what he asked to the people. The message, what is message? It's like actually what is the human rights, the equality, and what are you doing? What is you are doing in your life? Actually, what is his? So this is good, I think so. For me, I have learned a lot of these things.
Yeah, you touched on that interfaith point, and I think episode 2 really spoke to that as well. The story about the Rababis who sang in the gurdwaras for centuries. That was a clear example of exactly what you're talking about that whole interfaith aspect. So thank you for. So we might just sort of talk a little bit about maybe some highlights and stories that you guys might have had from the experience. I think Salman might have dropped off, but Deepak, we might start with you. Could you sort of tell us one story or highlight when you were filming in India or Bangladesh that you want to share with the audience?
Hello.
Yeah, it's back.
मैं एक इंसिडेंट है उड़ीसा हेलो
यस या
ਅਸੀਂ ਉੜੀਸਾ 'ਚ ਸ਼ੂਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਇੱਕ ਬੜਾ ਰੂਰਲ ਵਿਲੇਜ ਸੀਗਾ ਬਿਰਾਂਚੀਪੁਰ ਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਗਏ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਤੇ ਇਹੀ ਸੋਚਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਇੱਕ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਔਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਸਾਡਾ ਨੈਰੇਟਿਵ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਅਕੋਰਡਿੰਗ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਸ਼ੂਟ ਕਰਕੇ ਆ ਜਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਬਟ ਮੈਂ ਇੰਨਾ ਹੈਰਾਨ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਵਾਲੇ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉੜੀਆ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਕੋਈ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਬਟ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਗੁਰਮੁਖੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਾਠ ਕਰਕੇ ਸੁਣਾਇਆ ਉਹ ਮਤਲਬ ਮੇਰੇ ਲਈ ਤੇ ਅਨਬਲੀਵੇਬਲ ਮੈਂ ਸੋਚ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਸਕਦਾ ਕਿ ਵੀ ਇੱਕ ਉੜੀਸਾ ਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਇੰਟੀਰੀਅਰ ਗਾਉਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਿਲੇਜ 'ਚ ਇੰਨਾ ਫੇਥ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਤੇ ਔਰ ਮੇਬੀ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਥੋੜਾ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ 'ਚ ਰਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਪੰਜਾਬ 'ਚ ਰਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਬਟ ਉਹ ਫੇਥ ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਹੋਈ ਔਰ ਮਤਲਬ ਮੈਂ ਦੱਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦਾ ਕਿ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਚੇਂਜਿਸ ਆਇਆ ਉਸ ਇਨਸੀਡੈਂਟ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਚੇਂਜਿਸ ਹੋਏ
So let me translate that. What Deep is saying is that he has been quite impressed with various experiences he had in this making of this documentary. And one incident he wants to call out is that when we were in Odisha, he was amazed to find in such a remote location where there are no Punjabis or no communities that are popularly associated with Guru Nanak or commonly perceived to be associated with Guru Nanak. And he finds in these remote villages, people know about the verses of Guru Nanak by heart and they are reciting them. And he just couldn't understand which world he had come into and he was highly impressed with that. I will just add my little bit of 2 cents to that is that's a flavor you'll find as you'll start going into the various episodes. We as the makers of Guru Nanak's docuseries have kept a principle. We want to be true to Guru Nanak. We don't want to be true. We are not here to tell a faith or a religious boundary. We will be true to Guru Nanak. If there were any angles or any aspects associated with Guru Nanak, or even if they've been severed in the present times, we will give it space. If people like it or don't like it, we don't care because we are making an encyclopedia on Guru Nanak. That's been our philosophy in this making. Thank you. Deep, can you continue if you have anything else?
Or hello.
Yes, yeah, it's working. Oh.
I think Salman is there. You can
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, Deep.
Yeah, Deep, we are there. You want to Deep? कुछ और बोलना है कि आगे चलिए?
हाँ जी, आगे चलते हैं.
Let's go to
All right. Yeah. So, Salman, I think you dropped off earlier, but the question was, do you want to just tell us about one sort of story that you might have from your filming experience that was a highlight for you?
Hear me?
Yes.
So actually, there were many intimate moments and many events throughout this process. So it's really difficult to highlight one of them, but I'll try. Uh, when we were in Sri Lanka, in at Sita's temple, I got chance to observe something very interesting that I never had seen before. Um it was some event or festival of Hanuman, and a lot of people, they were the worshippers of Hanuman. They were collectively, they were gathered and they were celebrating and performing the rituals, uh, and like they were acting like monkeys, and they all of them, that was just out of respect, and it was sort of their ritual. So all of them, they were in trance, and uh, that was really interesting thing for me. I have never seen something like this before. So like when I saw them first time, in the start I was just afraid. I mean, I was in them, and I also had to film them, and everyone around me was Amadi was with me, and he was holding my hand because that was a bit scary for me. uh, so in the start I was a bit scared, but after some time I was I was able to uh, calm myself, and uh, when I look at them, and I was also questioning myself as well, and that was, sort of a reflecting moment for me, that in our cultures, in our own belief system, we are also into different rituals and different uh, different things that we follow. So apparently they were just different, but what actually made you to do that? What's the process behind your actions? Or I'll say that what is it actually that you believe, and why do you believe it? So I was just thinking at that time. So that experience, there were many other experiences as well, but this particular experience made me think that uh, what does it make us that we are following our own rituals? How do we do it? uh, is it just because our parents tell us to do that, or our society tell us to do that? Maybe if I was born in Sri Lanka or India, I would be I would be part of those rituals, but current right now I'm not part of it. Why am I not part of it? Because I'm part of an other culture. So you can say that it was a it was a big learning for me, that we should not just believe what is being taught to us. We should question, we should also think, we should also reflect, rather than just believing things and then following them. We should try to question things. And also, but when I was there, I was standing there questioning their belief, their rituals, their gods. It actually enables me to question my the concept of my God as well. and my belief system as well, which is not normal, which is not a normal practice actually. If I would not have been at that place, I might never asked such questions about my own faith. So that was a really uh, not an easy thing actually, until you go through something, and then you ask things to yourself. So I'll say that yes, there are other moments as well, but we have less time, so that's one of the highlights that
Can
I shared with you.
can I just add? Can I just add
Yeah.
one small thing, Hasveen, here?
Yes.
Yeah, he's choosing a very internal experience, but as me and Nikki, as people who have taken him to such places where our lives and his life has been at risk. Let me just add other elements to it. I mean, he was at the 21,000 feet in Tibet, holding a big C300 camera, and he was struck with altitude sickness. Salman, we have come to know that anything above 11,000 feet, he starts feeling altitude sickness. But he was sitting at 21,000 feet and he was vomiting, and we had to make a decision to return. And you know what, Salman would refuse to budge to return because he had committed himself to it, and that could be fatal. In Afghanistan, when he's flying the drone, he's not telling you that experience, but these are life-threatening experiences. I mean, there were AK-47 suddenly being fired at the drone, and they chased us all the way down. I'm not going to get into the story of that, but keeping it brief, I'll end it here by saying that jokingly, we reflect. I mean, Salman has had very different names, right? So it was Salman Shankar Singh, I think, because in Hindu temples he would be Shankar, right? We would tell him, we're going inside, don't be Salman, okay, for reasons. We know it. You are Shankar. And when in the Gurdwaras he's Singh, and when in the Islamic side he's a Salman, right? So.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, thank you both for sharing that. Kamran, coming to you, given you edited the series, were there sort of any stories about Guru Nanak that sort of surprised you, or you think aren't talked about enough, sort of based on your understanding of Guru Nanak? Kamran, I think you're on mute.
Mike.
Now, yeah, there are many stories in this series. So, like, this is whole series, like every episode I have learned a lot about the different things, like different stories coming out. I don't know about if I told you about the Bhagat Kabir, if I told about you Namdev, I don't know about the Sufi saints. I don't know about the Bhagats in subcontinent Indian. So these are the stories, like they are the music of these like saints, like the Bhagat Kabir's shabads, like they are open the mind. They are like their words are so difficult to understand, and their meanings are that if they have a one shabad of the Ulat Bani, they have a in Bhagat Kabir's, so they have a Ulat Bani, like the inverse meaning. So these are like very impressive things. And also I have learned a lot about the culture of like the subcontinent. Actually, we are bonded in I am from Pakistan, so I know about little bit about the Hinduism, like little bit about, not much about Buddhism. In this series, I have learned a lot about the Sikhism, also Sikhism, but the main structure, how the Sikhism create, like the Guru Nanak philosophy, how it's going forward to the world, and also about the Buddhism. Also, what is the Buddhism faith, and who is the main leader of this Buddhism, and also Jainism, every like the culture. So there are many things I learned this series, and the Guru Nanak philosophy also attached with all of, like he is challenging every person, like what are they doing actually. In every faith you see, they're actually their every culture, every faith, they are doing practices like rituals and everything. So what he's saying, so you have to learn actual message. What is the humanity? What is your action doing? So these are things learn. They're like captivating thing in this series. Yeah.
So can I just add a small snippet here? So Kamran has been staying. This is a very frugal production, right? We are not a commercial organization, so we are short-staffed with funds. People don't come to support also as much as these magnitude of these projects are, but we are thankful to the ones who have supported. So Kamran has now for the last since August he came in last year, so it's good about 15 months he's been staying with us. He's become a family member. So we eat at the same dining table. We are in the same home, and our production entity is in the same place. So sometimes in the evening, Kamran sits down when we're joking, and he comes up with a profound Guru Nanak's verse to tell us something. So the other day he was saying, "Paji, hum admi ha ek dami," right? So Guru Nanak's verse, I'm a man. I exist because I just took the last breath. So he tries to teach us about Guru Nanak. So
that's really nice. Yeah, thank you.
Actually, I remember many of Shabads of Guru Nanak. Like we are talking about, sometimes we are talking about actions of the life in life circles. So I remember the Shabad of, according to these talks, we are talking regular talks. So I remember the verse of Guru Nanak, and I speak to Paji and Amardeep Singh and
you get so immersed into it, yeah. Just a final question for this session before we get into the question and answer with the audience. Amardeep and Vininder, just a question for you guys. What is the legacy you hope this project will leave on the broader Sikh community?
I would say I would not just use the word Sikh. If you're talking about the broader community, it's just not about Sikhs. It's about humanity. So I would just not Sikhs. There has been an overwhelming response from after people have seen the first and the second episode, which cuts across people from South India, from Pakistan, from all over the world. So it has left an impact on people from diverse cultures, backgrounds, youth, elderly, everybody. So I think it will leave. I personally feel Guru Nanak would be seen with a very different lens now. What he was seeing earlier as. I hope we can do that.
So the way I look at it is that our whole attempt of this docuseries is to unbox Guru Nanak, right? So Guru Nanak was an independent, very free-spirited person, and 550 years back, what he seeded was far ahead of his times, right? And as the boundaries have developed, we've kind of boxed him, and our whole pursuit here is to unbox him. It's too early right now to say, but my aspiration, of course, is that this encyclopedia of Guru Nanak, people used to ask us, Amardeep, have you gone crazy? You're just make a 45-minute documentary on Guru Nanak, or make a 1-hour documentary on Guru Nanak. You need to just tell the world and let's leave it there, because who's going to see this kind of thing? And I would say, you know what? If the divine has opened these gates for us, then it's our moral responsibility to document it. Whether people choose to see it or don't see it, that's their problem. Let's first document it. Because once you document it, then change can be aspired towards, right? Then it can become an educational resource. Someone might be a diehard and will go all through the elements of those 24 episodes. Someone will pick up some sections of it. But what I'm finding very, very interesting, in the first 10 days of the release, we only got the first episode out for 10 days, second episode out for 3 days. We are, of course, flooded with the emails coming in or messages coming in from our own community. But what's great is that this person the other day in the Twitter, actually, he wrote, James Holt. He teaches theology and religion and spirituality in one of the UK-based universities. And James Holt writes on his Twitter, you can go to my Twitter account and see it from there. His note is there. He says, this is one series I don't want to binge watch, because I don't want to miss any episode. When you binge watch, you're going very fast and then you have to accumulate it. He says, I will be taking out 45 minutes every week and watching it. Now, this is someone who is not from your faith, James Holt. There's someone in US who's writing to us, teaching again, is a professor of theology. And she's actually writing to us that this is a fabulous teaching resource and material. The question and the challenge is, will the adherents of Guru Nanak understand this? Because the unfortunate thing is the adherents of Guru Nanak, like it or don't like it, the masses have deviated too much. We are more into, I'm not trying to have anything negative out here about Bhangra is not good or entertainment is not good, but there has to be a desire to know your roots, right? And I think we are kind of, the adherents of Guru Nanak, majority are today lost in their own pleasures and their own entertainments. Will they see it, is my question.
Yeah, and they, we just say Nanak is just not ours. Guru Nanak is for everyone. Yeah. He's universal.
Yes. Yeah, we can see that in the production as well, very much. Okay, that's a nice place to leave this sort of session. We're getting a lot of questions, so if we don't get to all of them, maybe you can ask, our panelists offline. But we might just get started. So first question is, would it be possible to get a guide to the text of the Shabads for each episode to review them later, and outline of the 24 parts to share with others who may not have time to watch all or want to review and see certain episodes again? Maybe Amardeep.
So one is, I couldn't understand the last part. You talked about Shabads, you talked about the text, and what else did you talk about?
An outline of the 24 parts, who might not have time to watch them all or want to review and see certain episodes again. So I think it's just there sort of a line?
Let me start from the reverse question. We made this as a narrative langar. It's open, right? We are trying to aspire to get the community support to now do the Punjabi and the Hindi version, and we're seeking the support of the community for that. But we have made this not as a restrictive paid material. We've not even gone to the OTT channel to put it, because the OTT channel would restrict the viewership to their only members. We've opened it. If you're seeking, come to it. It will teach you, right? You have to make that effort. I mean, as they say, you can take a horse to a pond, but you can't force it to drink, right? And that's exactly the point. We've thrown it. Who wants to aspire to learn from it? Go ahead and learn from it. Now, as far as the structure is concerned, the entire brief of the every episode is there on the Guru Nanak, thegurunanak.com, on the homepage. Every episode has been told to you what will it be covering, right? As far as the texts and the resources are concerned, you are dealing with, as I said, 65 years after Guru Nanak's life, up to 180 years, a large amount of texts that have been written. I've mentioned all those texts that broadly are guiding us in the first episode itself. We've shown their covers, we've shown their books. You go and see the first episode. In the first 10 minutes, you'll find what we are referring to and what the modern analysis are. And then we are going on a field and bringing in experiential learning and bringing in our own experiences and intertwining it inside it. So this itself is a text. So this is a text that you need to refer from a contemporary perspective to understand Guru Nanak. The olden texts are mentioned that you want to go and understand that, you want to go in there and understand that language. Well, you will have to then spend that much of effort to first understand that script, the language. You will not even probably be able to understand those things. So come to this resource and understand it. We've done a lot of work around it. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next question is, maybe we'll direct this to our other panelists. What were the biggest challenges you faced and how did you overcome them? So maybe Salman and Deep, do you want to take this one?
May I?
Yes. Yes, go ahead, Salman.
So for me, actually, the biggest challenge was in the filming, actually, because we were restricted in resources as well. And then you already know that traveling as a visitor or a tourist is a different thing, but traveling with cameras and filming in different countries is a different thing. So in terms of logistics, permissions, and then the filming itself, and we were not able to take the whole crew with us. You can say that I was traveling with Nikki ji and Amardeep. So I was like managing the sound and then the drone and then the main camera and then the B camera. So all of the things were like we had to manage in a very limited resources, and then due to other reasons as well, because we didn't want to be highlighted, because in Afghanistan it's not easy to film because people do not like camera. They think that it's haram. I was being stoned as well. People were throwing stones at me when they see the camera. So in the same way in Iraq, in Iran, in Saudi Arabia, so that was also another reason to do it in limited way. So I we are normally used to go for filming with crew, like when the sound guy is there, when the drone guy is there, like everyone is doing their own things, and then you focus on your work. But in this project, it was really challenging, and also keeping the narrative sidewise, because in every country the culture is different, the landscape is different, people are different. You have to uh, be synced visually as well when you are filming, because uh, when you take off and land in another country, everything is changed actually. So keeping that in mind, that it uh, it doesn't there are no jumps actually. There should not be jumps, that like in one country you are filming in another way, and in other country you are filming in another way, because we also had to shoot with GoPros and small cameras as well. So managing all this thing, uh, including the live threat as well, the technical challenges as well, and yeah, then challenges of narrative as well, because uh, in the start, like the narrative was developing with the project. So keeping that thing in mind as well, that we need to, and later on we also had to go back and film a few of the things again, because in the start we were we were not very much complete with the narrative. So that was just like a commando action.
Thanks for that, Salman. There's another question a bit further down. Deep, maybe you can take this one. Besides using drones, what other things did you use to capture the scenes so beautifully?
Hello.
Yes. Hi.
ਹਾਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਲਈ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਇਸ ਵਾਰੀ ਚੈਲੰਜਿੰਗ ਇਹ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਗੋਰਖ ਡਿੱਬੀ ਜਵਾਲਾ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਸ਼ੂਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਸੀ, ਤਾਂ SDM ਤੋਂ ਪਰਮਿਸ਼ਨ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਸੀ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਉੱਥੇ ਇੱਕ ਜਿੱਥੋਂ ਜੋਤ ਨਿਕਲਦੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਹੰਤ ਸੀਗੇ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਦੇ, ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਜੀ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮਿਸਯੂਜ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦਾ, ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਅੱਛੀ ਖਾਸੀ ਫਿਰ ਡਿਬੇਟ ਹੋਈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਕਿ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਮੈंने ਕਿਹਾ ਜੀ ਦੇਖੋ, ਜੇ ਕੁਝ ਅਸੀਂ ਗਲਤ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤੇ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਮੈਂ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਆਪਸ਼ਨ ਲੱਭ ਲੈਂਦਾ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਹਿਡਨ ਕੈਮਰਾ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਬਟ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਆਇਆ ਹਾਂ ਪਰਮਿਸ਼ਨ ਲਈ। ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਕਾਫੀ ਟਾਈਮ ਲੱਗਿਆ। ਸੋ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਛੋਟੇ ਛੋਟੇ ਚੈਲੰਜ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਇਹ ਸ਼ੂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ।
ਦੀਪ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਪੁੱਛ ਰਹੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਥੋੜਾ ਦੂਜਾ ਪੁੱਛ ਰਹੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਕਿ ਡਰੋਨ ਔਰ ਇਕਵਿਪਮੈਂਟਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕੀਤੇ ਨੇ, ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਡਰੋਨ ਔਰ ਕੈਮਰਾ ਦੇ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਹੋਰ ਕੀ ਕੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਸੀਗਾ।
ਓਕੇ, ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕੀਤਾ ਮੈਵਿਕ ਮਿਨੀ ਕੈਮਰਾ ਸੀ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਪਰਮਿਸ਼ਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਵੱਡਾ ਕੈਮਰਾ ਔਰ ਟਰਾਈਪੋਡ ਲਿਜਾਣ ਦੀ, ਉੱਥੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਕਾਫੀ ਫੁਟੇਜ ਸ਼ੂਟ ਕੀਤੀ, ਲਾਈਕ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਬੈਜਨਾਥ ਦਾ ਸੀ। ਤੇ ਇਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਮਤਲਬ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਇਕਵਿਪਮੈਂਟਸ ਵੀ ਐਡ ਕੀਤੇ, ਫਿਰ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕੀਤਾ। ਤੋ ਇਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਡੀ ਇਹ ਫਿਲਮਿੰਗ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸੀ ਇਹ ਪੂਰੀ ਹੋਈ।
So can I just translate that? So I think Deep, when initially he thought that probably the question was same as Salman. So what he was telling was that his experience was the biggest challenge was, places like the Nath Jogis who are at the Jwalaji temple. Guru Nanak's time, there was a huge faith of the Nath Jogis, the Kanfatta Jogis, right? Some elements of that we have been able to trace back in this docuseries. and the Jwalaji temple, the biggest challenge was getting to flame the to film the flame and the Nath Jogis out there. And of course, people question. And coming from there, the biggest challenge is, if anyone thinks that filming, I'm just adding a little bit here to Deep's point that he said about the equipment. If anyone thinks the reason we've had different varieties of equipments, though we were a very small team, but we actually took ourselves with all was filmed in 4K high resolution format. But we had an Osmo, which is the smallest camera, which is even smaller than it's smaller than even your mobile phone. But it gives you 4K resolution, but that's not your go-to camera. And then you have GoPros to attach on your vehicles and other things. And you have a drone. Then you have these B cameras. Those are the Panasonic cameras. And you have a huge camera with a stand, which is a Canon camera. You had all varieties of equipment because you don't know where what will be encountered and where you will have to take out what equipment, right? Because footage is very important. This will not repeat again. So if people think, let's take, for example, we've talked about a lot of these countries where getting in is a bit of a challenge. I always say, if you think filming in India is easy, well, Deep has just given you an example about the Nath Jogis and the flame at the Jwalaji temple. Well, in India, it's so fragmented that every place, every religious institution is a might by itself. As a Sikh, I'm telling you, I've invested 7.5 years of my life after corporate world, and I've done, no one can doubt that I've generated very valuable works in terms of Sikh legacy in Pakistan and other books and so on and so forth. But even if today, even after this docuseries, if I was to go to Amritsar to Darbar Sahib and take out a camera, the first one to stop will be by my own community management people. They'll not allow me to film, right? So that's my own place. Now take that challenge to a place like Jagannath Temple, or take it to an Islamic site in India, or take it to any other place. You suddenly find this, you're navigating through such a challenging zone that every institution, every temple has police boundaries, protections. You have to navigate through that. And therefore you need different varieties of cameras, because even if you have we had permissions, but permissions sometimes don't hold up. And that's the biggest challenge.
Okay. Another question here is, what level of similarity did you find in the theory recorded in books and the practical, the actual sites you visited? So Amardeep and Vininder, maybe you can talk to this.
In terms of probably.
Yeah, okay, I'll take that. So I think I've already alluded to it. Guru Nanak, I jokingly will say, the community has continued to make him travel. He's like a juggernaut who's not stopping, right? Juggernaut is a powerful force. He's not stopping. He's continuing to travel. So there's an oral tradition, right? And with all due respect, we are not here to challenge anyone's faith or belief. We are trying to tell a story of Guru Nanak, period. We have an objective of storytelling. We are not here to challenge your faith. If you believe in a particular site, if you believe in a particular narrative, we will just bow down to you. Fine. But we are trying to tell you in a rational manner which are our sources from which we have taken our narrative, and we are following through that, right? Now, I've already told you that the earliest documented traditions we've taken is written 65 years after his life by Gurdas Ji's Bard, up to 180 years of texts that were written. And I've mentioned these in the opening statements of the first episode. Yet what happens is when you start traveling, there are a lot of oral narratives. There are a lot of myths that have been actually put down. Unfortunately, Guru Nanak today has been reduced because of our own ability to understand the depth of his verses. He's been reduced to physical, tangible elements to show his power. Guru Nanak's power is in his verses. And that. So, for instance, if you take a rock being dented, a well being dug by him, or gardens being ravaged, and so on and so forth. And I sometimes say, is this what Guru Nanak is? He's not written anything about this. Never. So that means our own ability to not understand him has limited our own narratives to create a shallow narrative which has been cascaded so deeply that when one of the reasons of motivation of also doing this series was because, apart from the fact it has to be done, when I used to see all this digital media narratives up there, I could not connect with anything. The animations, they're talking all kinds of things that is contrary to the philosophy of Guru Nanak. So we are trying to attempt to project that based on his verses.
Mm-hmm. And just one final question. with a project like this, especially one with such major time commitment and one with so much uncertainty of success, there are always people who discourage you and try to convince you not to take such big risk. How did you tackle that situation and reason with them?
Well, in 2014, when I left the corporate world and I decided to go to Pakistan, when that time the Taliban problems were on the peak, news reports were there. Even my closest friends out here were telling me, have you gone insane, right? And the insanity has only gone multifold since 2014 to the point at the pinnacle of this project. You have to be insane to do this. You have to have a vision to do this. You have to listen to people, but believe in yourself. Without insanity, these projects cannot be done.
Fearless. Otherwise, you can't do work.
I will not say I'm fearless. I've had very moments in this project about the people who have traveled with us. I mean, let's say Salman or Deep or even Kamran, who's here with us, our singers. It's a huge multi-faith team that has put Guru Nanak's narrative together. At every moment, the fear has been about, let's take Salman in Tibet at 21,000 feet when he's vomiting. We are concerned. I'm afraid about his well-being. I'm not afraid about us. I'm afraid about the team and more so about whether anything happens to him. Or similarly, everywhere, every human aspect of it, because we all have committed ourselves to it. You need a passionate person to do this project. Sure, everyone needs a salary. Sure, everyone needs the money. But where is that heart element? Without the heart element, Guru Nanak's documentary cannot be done. And if the people are giving their heart and soul, whether our singers, you've seen the music is so different inside this. They've given their heart and soul. We've not even talked about the story of how, at some stage, we should do a session on that, of how the musicology across India and Pakistan has come together in this series, right? Now, that has taken us a lot of investment of time, energy, resources to do that because we had a vision. Right. So all these aspects is where you are concerned about your team members, more so about the insanity about yourself. You are insane enough to say that I'm going to walk this path. That's your decision.
Yeah. And everyone's on this call has expressed so much gratitude, to you and to be part of this team. So we can really see that in the production, and we're very grateful for all your service. I think that's a good point to just end the Q&A. And the last couple of minutes, Amardeep and Vininder, I might hand over to you just to speak about what we can expect over the next 6 to 12 months and what projects you guys are working on, and if we can, the Sangat can assist in any way.
Yeah, so I already have probably a 5-year plan in my mind, right? My mind works like a corporate mind, right? I have things ahead of time. Whether I'll achieve it or no, time will tell, okay? So if anyone wants to know the 5-year plan, it's there on our thegurunanak.com on the support page. I've listed down what we've delivered, what we intend to deliver. But I'm not concerned about the 5-year plan. I'm concerned about my next 12 months. What we have done right now is delivered over three and a half years of commitment, with 30 years of our investment of knowledge base inside this, of our own toiling, but 3.5 years is what we've committed of our life to creating this docuseries. I can tell you, Nikki and I have not taken a single day off in the last 3.5 years. This intensity is so much that we've been working 17 hours a day, 365 days into 3.5 years. There's no stopping, right? But we've delivered it. Now, as we've delivered it, what we have been told by the people who have reviewed it, who are seeing it, they've said, people who have understood the narrative as will start evolving and see in the other episodes, the journey will continue. From the 3rd episode, the journey will start, and we'll start going to multi-faith sites. The narrative energy will change. People who've seen it, they've understood in the reviewing stage that this narrative cannot repeat again. And if it cannot repeat again, then it needs to go to the masses. The challenge that we have had is that if we would have started from Punjabi, such a big production without any commercial objective could have never taken off, because it needs a lot of funding. People need to be fed, people need to be moved, camera equipment need to be brought. There's a lot to be done over 3.5 years, right? Without the money, how will you run it? So if you have a commercial project, people put the money before, because they get a return on investment. We've already said we'll make this narrative freely available about Guru Nanak. Well, then the biggest thing is getting that money, and then you start the project. So right now, we've delivered this. Our hope is people who've seen it, they've said, you have, so if you would have started with Punjabi, probably would have taken off with this project because the funding wouldn't have got raised. We started with English, the diaspora supported us, we've created a narrative. And I'm hoping the youth will connect with it, the parents will connect with it. But now the next is, people are saying you have to convert it into Punjabi, and I'm saying, why Punjabi alone? I've grown up in a Hindi belt. It should be converted in a mix of Hindi and Urdu also, because broader communities need to know about this narrative, right? So we need to do Punjabi and the Hindi Urdu mix kind of a narrative, but that needs the next phase of community's commitment. Now, people go to see a movie, a 2-hour movie, and you spend $100. The question is, are there X amount of people who will come forward and say, I have learned something out of it. Let me support this project, and go to the donate button and a home button out there. Right now, what we're finding is from the 10 days of this thing of releases, there's a lot of consumption happening. This is good. A lot of people are seeing it. But are people coming forward to support? Not really. And that's the problem with a free product, right? We have a time commitment out here. We have to deliver the Punjabi and Hindi very fast, because this team can do it. Otherwise, once this team gets disbanded, who's going to do it? I'm not going to sign up. It's so complicated a project, right? We've got to do it now, or it won't happen. So the community now needs to rise up and say, let's come together and do our part. If we go and see a blockbuster movie, we spend X amount of dollars as a family. Well, this narrative is coming to us about a root cause, or a root about a narrative of a faith, root of a faith is coming to our home. Let us put our responsibility on. If you put your responsibility, we have proven ourselves time and again for 7 years. We will deliver something more meaningful out here. It's left to us as a community to decide what do we want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just a reminder for the audience, we can access, as Amardeep said, the upcoming projects and what the team is working on thegurunanak.com, and there is a link to donate on that website as well. And again, just a reminder that episodes are releasing weekly on Thursdays, so you can access that there. You can also follow the Guru Nanak on Instagram, Facebook, and those channels. And I think that wraps up. That's a nice point to wrap up. So thank you so much for all our panelists for doing this service to the community. We're really appreciative, and thank you for joining us. It was a very insightful session. If you do want to, you can follow Sikh Youth Australia and YSPN on our channels as well to know what we get up to. But with that said, thank you all so much for joining, and to our attendees, thank you for joining as well. And we really hope you enjoyed this webinar.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.